General Hospital spoilers tease that the seemingly small snag of a loose flash drive could cost Emma Scorpio Drake her chance at the coveted assistantship with the esteemed Professor Henry Dalton. It was a moment Emma never saw coming. She had poured weeks of research, late-night lab work, and painstaking analysis into her assignment, only to have her microscopic slide photographs and data files vanish into digital limbo. At the critical moment of submission, her flash drive refused to click into place, the connector wobbling as if mocking her efforts. She stared at the computer's unresponsive directory, her heart pounding, knowing that without those files, her work would look incomplete, amateurish. Meanwhile, Professor Dalton, arms folded with practiced detachment, announced that if nothing changed, Josslyn Jax, the new face in the class, would be invited to take on the assistant role. The words hit Emma like a blow, unjust, unfair, unforgivable. Here she was, the daughter of 2 decorated spies and a proud descendant of the Scorpio legacy, brought low by a flimsy piece of hardware. Emma's frustration simmered as she trudged home beneath the hospital's flickering streetlights. Each step echoed her sense of betrayal, by fate, by technology, by a system that seemed to favor newcomers over dedicated veterans. She replayed the day's events in her mind, the sleek locker room hallway where she first learned of Dalton's warning, the hushed whispers among classmates, the prideful sparkle in Josslyn's eyes as she accepted Dalton's praise. Emma had seen Josslyn gliding through the corridors, notebook in hand, always ready with a polite smile and a perfectly penciled margin note. Now, that same smile haunted Emma's thoughts. Determined to salvage her dignity and her future, Emma retraced her steps, returning to the lab in search of a backup. But the moment she crossed the threshold, Professor Dalton's voice cut through the sterile air. "Emma, your work is commendable, but we have deadlines. If you cannot submit on time, I must move on." His gaze lingered on Josslyn, who stood just inside the door, her posture relaxed, her expression unreadable. Emma clenched her fists, blood pounding in her ears, but she dared not argue. She bowed her head and retreated, a promise of vengeance solidifying in her mind. That night, Emma's apartment felt suffocating. Stacks of half-finished lab notebooks and scattered printouts littered her desk, a testament to the hours she'd invested. She reset her flash drive countless times, running diagnostic utilities until dawn, but each attempt ended in the same error message: device not recognized. Sleep eluded her as she tested every permutation, different ports, another computer, even the hospital's obscure storage kiosk. All in vain. Meanwhile, Josslyn's name loomed larger, her threat more formidable, as rumors spread that Dalton was already impressed by her submissions. As sunrise tinted the sky pink, Emma revisited Dalton's office, armed not with her missing files, but with defiance. She stepped into the narrow hallway, the sound of her heels amplified by sterile tiles, and paused at his door. Inside, Dalton was leaning back in his chair, hands folded behind his head, idly scanning a stack of papers. He looked up, expression courteous, but final. "Professor Dalton," Emma began, voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "I want you to reconsider. My flash drive failed, yes, but the work, the research is mine. I deserve a chance to prove it." Dalton's eyes flicked to the clock. "Miss Scorpio Drake, deadlines are integral to our work. Science waits for no one, and distinctions like this are not granted by sentiment." Emma opened her mouth to protest, but Dalton turned his attention to the papers on his desk. He tapped one with a silver pen. "Miss Jack's submission shows exceptional insight into the pathogen's mutation rates. It stands on its own merit." He slid the paper toward Emma. It was pristine, meticulously organized, everything her own submission had been, or so she'd believed. She snatched the document, scanning the data tables and footnotes, and her blood ran cold. Every hypothesis, every unique diagram, every marginal annotation was lifted almost verbatim from her own notes. Emma's vision blurred as she realized that Dalton held in his hands the fruits of her labor, credited to another. She looked up, voice sharp with disbelief. "This is my work." But Dalton sighed, pushing the paper back across his desk. "I'm afraid you misunderstand, Miss Scorpio Drake. This is Miss Jack's analysis. She outperformed you in execution." Emma's pulse thundered. "You think a simple typo in a complex algorithm is outperformance? You think my shaky flash drive is enough to punish hours of labor?" She swallowed, racking her brain for a counterargument that might pierce his indifference. "Professor, Josslyn only joined the class weeks ago. How could she have replicated my entire methodology so precisely in less?" Her words trailed off as Dalton's gaze hardened. "I'm not interested in who wrote what. I'm only interested in results. Moving forward, the assistantship will be decided based on performance, not entitlement." Emma scooped up her scattered papers and fled the office, her vision clouded by tears. She stormed out of the building, the cool morning air doing nothing to calm her fury. If she could not sway Dalton's sense of justice, she would find another path to redemption, another way to punish Josslyn for appropriating her work and to reclaim what was rightfully hers. By midday, Emma's plot for revenge had crystallized. She cornered Josslyn in the sunlit alcove beside the chemistry labs, the two of them encircled by stainless steel benches and stacks of reagent bottles. Josslyn looked up from her phone, expression polite but cautious. "Emma," she said carefully. "I'm sorry about your flash drive." Emma's laugh was brittle. "Save it. You know exactly what's going on. You stole my work." Josslyn's eyes widened. "I didn't." "Don't lie to me," Emma hissed. She reached into her bag and produced a dog-eared printout of her original draft, its margins scrawled in her handwriting. "This is mine, and you're allowing Dalton to reward your theft." Tears shimmered in Josslyn's eyes as she stammered her defense. "I swear, Professor Dalton gave me this to revise. He wanted my perspective." "Bullshit," Emma snapped. "You can't fool me. You're here because of some secret WSB assignment, to cozy up to Dalton and infiltrate the faculty." The accusation hung in the air between them like a guillotine. Josslyn's face paled. She opened her mouth, but Emma cut her off. "Don't deny it. We both know what you are." With that, Emma turned on her heel and strode away, adrenaline fueling her steps. Her vendetta was no longer hypothetical. It was war. That evening, under the flooded lights of the hospital parking garage, Emma laid out the next phase of her plan. She needed leverage against Dalton, a way to ensure he couldn't merely brush her aside again. And so Emma made the most extreme choice of her life. She would seduce the professor. She rehearsed her lines in front of the cracked mirror of her apartment, applying lip stain in the flickering candlelight. She selected a sleek black dress, professional yet alluring, and practiced a confident smile. This would be her moment to seize power, to remind Dalton who held the true intellectual fire. At dusk, Emma entered the professor's office under the pretext of needing guidance on her latest experiment. Dalton greeted her with a measured smile, unaware of the storm brewing behind her eyes. She offered gratitude for his past mentorship, lamented her setbacks, and leaned forward on the corner of his desk with intentional grace. Her breath was warm against his papers, her words honeyed. When he rose to close the door, she let her fingers brush his arm, and in that charged silence, she leaned in for a kiss. Dalton hesitated, caught between prudence and temptation, before giving in to the moment's electric pull. The next morning, rumors rippled through Port Charles. Emma and Dalton had been seen together late at night, whispers of a liaison that threatened to scandalize the academy. Yet Josslyn, bound by her WSB mandate to secure Dalton's trust at any cost, could not afford to lose this advantage. She moved swiftly, meeting Dalton for a clandestine breakfast of coffee and croissants, her easy laughter filling the cafe's empty corners. She spoke of her admiration for his work, asked for his insights, and let her hair fall across her shoulders just so. Dalton, still reeling from Emma's advance, found himself charmed by Josslyn's youthful exuberance. As Emma and Josslyn competed for Dalton's favor, each deploying seduction as a weapon, the professor emerged as the ultimate victor. He reveled in their attention, basking in the power that came from pitting two brilliant young women against one another. Rather than expedite his decision on the assistantship, he deliberately extended the process, requesting additional presentations, more data, extra demonstrations. Each request plunged Emma and Josslyn into fresh rounds of sleepless nights and frantic lab work. All the while, Dalton lounged in his leather chair, surveying their toil with a satisfied smile, secure in the knowledge that neither woman could claim victory until he chose to relent. Thus, the stage is set for an escalating battle of wits, ambition, and desire, a high-stakes contest orchestrated by a professor who wields his power with the precision of a master puppeteer. Emma and Josslyn, once classmates vying for academic recognition, now find themselves entangled in a personal rivalry where every misstep could cost them their careers, their reputations, and perhaps even their hearts. The question lingers: who will endure Dalton's prolonged game of manipulation and emerge victorious as his trusted assistant? And at what cost to their integrity, their friendships, and their sense of self? Emma awakens on the morning after her calculated seduction of Professor Henry Dalton with a mixture of triumph and apprehension. Lying in the dim light of her apartment, she replays every detail: the shimmer of his eyes as she touched his arm, the flush on his cheeks when she whispered praise of his latest paper, the way he finally closed the distance between them. She feels a surge of satisfaction. Her plan has worked, granting her unprecedented influence. But as she rises, the gravity of her actions settles in. The boundaries she crossed, the ethics she sacrificed. They weigh heavily on her conscience. Still, the prize, the assistantship, the respect, the validation, beckons her onward. Across town, Josslyn grapples with her own turmoil. Her assignment for the World Security Bureau demanded infiltration of Professor Dalton's inner circle, and seduction was part of the playbook. Yet, when she arrived at Dalton's office the following morning, prepared with a presentation of her own, she found him distant, distracted by thoughts of Emma's midnight visit. Josslyn senses the air of rivalry, the competition intensified by the personal entanglement. She steels herself, straightens her blouse, and delivers her talk on cellular regeneration with crisp confidence. Her slides sparkle with original data until Dalton interrupts, asking, "Where did you obtain these figures?" Josslyn hesitates, caught unprepared to reveal her sources. The edge goes out of her performance, and Dalton's raised eyebrow signifies another setback. Meanwhile, Emma arrives at the lab, offering to mentor Josslyn through the assignment's more complex segments. At first glance, this appears magnanimous, a gesture of camaraderie between competitors. But Emma's true motive is to maintain her upper hand. She steers Josslyn toward flawed methodologies, subtle misdirections that will undermine her in Dalton's eyes. Josslyn, unaware of the sabotage, thanks Emma profusely, believing they are forging a truce. In private, Emma feels a thrill of triumph. Her revenge tastes sweeter than any celebratory toast. Yet as the days pass, Emma notices something unexpected: Josslyn's resilience. Each time her project wavers under Emma's hidden sabotage, Josslyn adapts, corralling data from overlooked experiments and improvising new approaches. Dalton, observing both students' evolving work, begins to comment less on Emma's smooth delivery and more on Josslyn's ingenuity under pressure. Emma's confidence falters as she realizes that her rival's resourcefulness might outshine even her own calculated cunning. In the midst of this academic chess game, personal alliances shift. Danny Morgan, Jason's son and a bright young student with a penchant for biology, crosses paths with Emma in the hospital library. He's arrived early to study, and Emma, surprised by his presence, offers to show him a rare micrograph. As they peer through the microscope together, Danny's earnest curiosity reminds Emma of her own love for science, a passion untainted by politics or seduction. For a moment, she glimpses a path not defined by rivalry, mentorship, genuine collaboration, the pure joy of discovery. Danny's quiet gratitude kindles a warmth in her chest that she thought she'd lost beneath layers of ambition. At the same time, Josslyn finds herself confiding in Brooke Lynn Quartermain, a mutual acquaintance who recognizes the signs of WSB involvement. Brooke Lynn, ever the social butterfly with a knack for gossip, confronts Josslyn in a secluded cafe corner. "You're in deep, aren't you?" she whispers. Josslyn's silence confirms Brooke Lynn's suspicions. "He's using you both," Brooke Lynn continues, her eyes flashing. "Professor Dalton's not gonna choose a side until he's squeezed every drop of something from you." Josslyn clenches her jaw, grappling with the realization that she's both operative and pawn in a twisted academic game. She wonders whether she can reconcile her mission with her own moral compass. Meanwhile, Dalton's requests grow more demanding. He schedules a weekend symposium for Emma and Josslyn to co-present a joint paper on neural stem cell differentiation. The announcement sends shockwaves through the department, two contestants forced to collaborate under the professor's exacting gaze. Emma and Josslyn exchange tense glances, their unspoken enmity sharpened by the mandate to cooperate. Each must guard her secrets, expose the other's weaknesses, and ensure her own survival. As they retreat to the research wing late one evening, the tension between them is palpable. Emma unpacks her lab coat with mechanical precision, while Josslyn sets up her laptop on the long stainless steel bench. The hum of the incubators and the distant clang of the hospital's night shift carts underscore the gravity of their task. Emma breaks the silence with a curt question, "Ready to merge our data?" Josslyn nods, though her eyes betray suspicion. "Let's just get this over with." Over the next 2 hours, they merge their findings, Emma guiding the statistical analysis while Josslyn arranges the visualizations. Yet collaboration proves more treacherous than combat. Emma catches Josslyn pausing over a chart that could reveal Emma's sabotaging code. Josslyn narrowly averts her eyes, feigning a search for a mislabeled axis. Each moment becomes a minefield of guarded glances, subtle verbal traps, veiled threats disguised as academic queries. They work side by side, constructing a hypothesis that neither fully trusts, yet both must defend before Dalton and the assembled faculty. Finally, the day of the symposium arrives. The lecture hall overflows with professors, students, and curious onlookers drawn by this scandalous competition. Emma and Josslyn stand at the podium, their joint slides gleaming on the massive screen behind them. Dalton sits in the front row, his expression inscrutable. As Emma begins the introduction, her voice clear, commanding, Josslyn watches, ready to interject at the slightest misstep. When Emma yields the floor to Josslyn for the results section, Josslyn's tone cracks at first, then steadies into the poised confidence that had impressed Dalton from the start. She unveils their integrated model of cellular repair, citing both Emma's robust datasets and her own adaptive simulations. The audience leans forward, captivated by the synergy of their work. A testament to intellectual alchemy rather than cutthroat rivalry. As they conclude, Emma scans Dalton's face. There is no smugness, no triumph, only a slow, appreciative nod. Josslyn's heart hammers in her chest as she awaits his verdict. The hall falls silent, every eye fixed on the professor. Finally, Dalton rises from his chair, applause rippling across the auditorium. He smiles, a rare warmth softening his usual reserve. "Miss Scorpio Drake, Miss Jax," he begins, voice rich with genuine respect. "Today, you have demonstrated not only mastery of your respective research areas, but also the power of collaboration under adversity. You have elevated one another's strengths and overcome the challenges I imposed. For this, I am honored to offer you the assistantship together." A gasp rises from the crowd. Emma and Josslyn exchange stunned glances, and assistantship shared. Their rivalry dissolves in that moment, replaced by a shared astonishment. On the stage, amidst the final applause, they reach for one another's hands, an unspoken pact forming between them. The assistantship they fought over with deception and seduction has transformed into a partnership born of respect and mutual achievement. In the hush that follows, Dalton adds quietly, "I trust that, moving forward, you will continue to challenge me and each other with the same vigor and integrity you showed today." His words hang in the air like a promise of new beginnings. As the audience disperses and the lights dim, Emma and Josslyn stand shoulder to shoulder, the weight of their earlier machinations lifting from their shoulders. The battle for favor, once fueled by betrayal and manipulation, has given way to an alliance forged in the fires of competition. In that shared moment, they glimpse a future where ambition and ethics can coexist, a lesson taught by a professor who, through a game of power and seduction, ultimately guided them to a higher purpose. And so, beneath the silent grandeur of the lecture hall, two young women step forward into the next chapter of their lives, colleagues, collaborators, and perhaps unexpected friends, united by the trials they endured and the knowledge that, when the stakes are highest, true victory lies not in defeating one another but in rising together.